Hi, welcome to 20 ideas of things to make for and to use at Christmas time. We're having a whole lot of fun. I'm Susan Clare, GourmetQuilter. There's a pattern with the information that comes out with each idea that we're having through the website, through GourmetQuilter.com. So if you're interested, you can have a look. There's more information there. So we're actually doing 20 ideas, so one a day for 20 days, and we are up to idea number 15. So we are well into it. We're nearly ready for Christmas already. So what we're going to do this time is make a little bit of holly. So holly is such a great thing. The real holly is such a spiky thing. This is so much more friendly. So it's actually wired so that we can change the shape of it. And if you ever look at holly leaves, they're quite often quite sort of wired. We'll call them wired, shall we? So you could make them, and I've just sewn a couple of little pom-poms on. You could have beads, you could have buttons. There's lots of different things you could do for the actual berries. But so it's the leaves that we're making. So I've got a little bowl over here with some leaves in it. So I'm making two sizes of leaf, a long one and a short one. And I've got different fabrics on one side to the other. So I'll show you how I've gone about doing it. So I actually cut a strip of fabric for the full width of the fabric, and I've cut out all these leaves that I've been doing from that strip. So what I've ended up doing, normally when we use fusible web, we're going to put fusible web on both pieces of fabric that we're going to fuse together, because we're going to fuse some wire in between. Normally when we use a fusible web, we trace onto the paper. This time we actually need the shape on the fabric, because we're going to peel the paper off right when we need the markings. So I went ahead and I just traced a whole line of leaves. I alternated large and small so that I could make little pairs like this. And I've got one here that I've already stitched, but so that you can see how I've done it. So I'll go ahead now and just show you how I've gone about putting the little wire in between and what we do with it. There, so I've got a light box here, and I found that a light box was quite helpful so that I could see through, because what we're going to do is peel the fusible web off, and we actually need to see the shape through the fabric so that we know where to position the wire. So I've already got some wire. Now the wire I'm using is florist wire. I don't know what gauge it is, but it's a fairly standard wire that a florist might use for wiring some of their flowers and things. I've got some little wire cutters here. Most pliers and things have a little wire cutter in them. Don't go using your scissors, it's not good for your scissors. It's not hard to cut. This just cuts through as easy as that. It's just a simple little cut. So wire cutters, pliers with a cutter on them, something like that will really help getting the wires cut. So I've gone ahead, we've got a short one and a long one for our different size leaves. And we just want it to sit up the middle of the leaf. So I can see where my drawing is through the light box here, and I just want it to sit in there. So it doesn't go right to the end, because we're going to be stitching on that drawn line. So we don't want a bit of wire in the way of our stitching. And then this is the longer one. So that sits on, again, in from the end, at both ends, and more or less up the middle. Again, it wouldn't even matter if it wasn't absolutely exactly in the middle, because I don't know whether holly leaves have a vein absolutely exactly in the middle or not. So now I'm going to position my piece of other side of the holly leaf on here, and it needs to come right up close because the drawing is right up close here. So I didn't leave a lot of gap between my leaves, but I didn't really need a lot of gap, so that's okay. And the same with this one. I'm going to position that on here. So that's fusible web to fusible web. I've got a little bit of sticky here, so I'm actually just going to cut that off because I don't want to iron that. So I don't need those bits. I can probably turn this off now and bring the iron over. And I'm just going to press those with that wire in between. So nothing too hard about that yet. And as I said, I've already stitched these, but all I've done is follow the stitching. So I'm stitching on this side And I probably marked them just a little bit heavier than you might need to, but so that you could see them. But it will disappear because we stitch on it and then we're going to be cutting them out. So just to stitch on, I'm just using a straight stitch, and I'm actually just going to reduce the size of it just a little bit. Just because we're going around curves and things, and it's just a bit easier. So really just stitching on that drawn line. So the wire is no problem at all because we don't ever stitch on the wire at all. So I don't think you need to worry about the wire being in there. Just be aware of it being in there. So I did do each leaf individually, so I come back the other way on the other side. So you don't have to make a whole string of them. You could make a little garland, you could make a whole lot of these leaves. They're kind of fun because they can be used for so many things. Who knew that holly was such a good thing? So we're not too worried if it's not absolutely an exact stitching line. I don't think I'll stitch the small one. I've got one here I can show you, but it's just the same thing. Because a holly leaf, because it all wrinkles up and things, if one point's in a little bit and the other one's out a bit, all of that's just part of the holly leaf. So that's all stitched now. So all I'm then doing is just cutting just a little bit away from the stitching. Because it's all fused together, it's going to sit together really nicely, and we just cut just that little bit away, and there's nothing more you could want really than little holly leaves like this. They can jazz up all sorts of things. I've had a couple of little suggestions, so I'll show you those shortly when I've got all this done. And I'll just cut out a small one while I'm here so that I can do something with them both. So again, just be aware that that wire's there. You're not cutting where the wire is. And I can leave that now. So now I've got two leaves that are, you can use them whichever way you like. And so you can just crinkle them up. Holly leaves often are sort of kind of a little bit all over the place, so you don't have to just wrinkle them in one direction. Two directions is good. You can turn them over, you can have them this way, you can have them that way. Now I might just stitch the ends together to make something like this. When I made this little one, I've just overlapped the ends, and I've actually stitched the little pom-poms on at the same time, and I've just placed a piece of knotted cord, there's the knot sticking through there, in between the two leaves. So if I was going to be making something with the little berries on, and these are just little soft, insignificant little pom-pom things that I found in a little craft supply place, namely my cupboard. So I would, now there's no wire in this end bit of these, so right in the very end, so it's still okay to stitch them as long as it's only on that end. Don't go trying to stitch where the wire is, it won't be good. So I might stitch those two together first, and it's really just a little stitch. You could do all this by hand, however just remember that you've got a couple of layers of the fusible web in there, and you've also got 4 layers of fabric, so it's quite a lot to pop a needle through. So it's easier to work with the leaves when they're flat, doing this sort of thing. And then I'm really just going to lay this on here and squash it and stitch into it, because it kind of disappears. Again, just being aware of where you're wire is. You don't want to stitch over the wire. Let's trim that thread off, get it out of the way. See, already it's looking really cute. But if we want 2 berries, I don't know, you might want 3 or 4 berries. It's really just a couple of stitches backwards and forwards because they squash down so nicely. If you were sewing beads on, you probably would need to do that one by hand, or buttons too possibly. So we've got, so now you can bend those little wires up any way you like so that you've got your holly how you want it. So I thought that you could have it as a little hanging ornament, or it could be on a gift on a little tag. You could have a whole bowl of holly puree. Sometimes we have a nice potpourri around at Christmas time. You could have some little berries sitting in amongst it. We could, what else can we do? I thought it would look really cute if we were to put some holly on one of our little stockings that we've made. I thought that was a great little idea. Well, these are my good ideas. I'm hoping you'll have some good ideas. I thought you could put it on a candle if you're going to have some candles around. Now I've just stuck that in with a pin because pins go into candles. It's great. It shouldn't cause any problem because the candle will burn down the centre, or you could put some around the base. I thought maybe on one of these nice gift bags that we've made, you could have, if you wanted to jazz that up even more, you could have some holly sitting up on there. You could be making jam to give away, and you could put some holly around on a nice little jam top. You could. So to make that, I just stitched that onto an elastic. Now the elastic I used is a hair elastic. Hair elastics are great. You can just get thicker ones as well. You could of course use it as a hair ornament. You could wear it as a bracelet. You could put it on your shoes. I'm sure there's so many places that you could put holly. You could make a whole garland of holly. I just thought that was such a useful little thing, and because you can shape them, they've just got a little bit of an interest going for them. So I hope you've enjoyed that idea. That was idea number 15 for our Christmas ideas, and I will see you again with idea number 16.